Good morning and happy Friday, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining the stream. The market's looking pretty good this morning. We're seeing a lot of bullish action, a lot of stocks rising, and that's awesome to see, especially given the really bad inflation report. We'll cover the specific details in just like a couple minutes or so. I just want a couple more people to once a couple more people join the stream, we'll definitely cover the details. But besides that, we have a lot of stocks popping up. Some stocks are even moving pretty big in after hours. Like yesterday, we had AI just explode on a $500 million deal with the Department of Defense. So that should be awesome. But let us know what stocks you're watching. We'll definitely take a look at them. And Tom, it looks like we're set to have a pretty good day.
Yeah, we are. The SPY did pretty good this morning, I will say. The inflation data came in, like you said, once a little bit more people join, we might go over a little bit harder. But man, the SPY's really ripping up. We're right up at this $470 resistance level that we've almost quadruple topped at here. We hit it a couple of times in after hours and in pre-market, like on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then we also hit it on Thursday. And then we're hitting it this morning again. So definitely lots of touches here at 470 to 471. And I'll be honest, the market looks like it's setting up for a pretty big move to the upside if we can get it. You know, if we can break out here, I feel like the move could be pretty exponential. But I'll be honest, that CPI data came in a lot worse than I thought it was going to. And honestly, I would have expected the markets down, but it looks like we are actually rising up on the news, believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stocks are in the green by a good amount. You know, most stocks are in the green. Of course, we have AI leading the watch list, but even DraftKings is having a good day, which is great to see. Palantir, it's looking pretty good so far. So, great stuff there. And, you know, it just goes to show you, like, most of the time the market does explode up, whether you have bad news or good news or whatever. You know, it's just really hard to bet against the market. And then the best thing is, like, you'll see bad news get reported. Let's say the market flies up, and then, like, let's say a couple months later, you know, let's say we have like a really good inflation report, then the market might tank down. You know, it's just it's a game we play, but the market is looking pretty good. You know, we are getting very, very close to new all-time highs on the SPY. And Tom, I'll tell you, like, last week the market was looking pretty rough, and this week was like really, really good in terms of like bullish movement.
Yeah, it really was. We can see that ever since Monday morning, the market has pretty much just shot up off of these lows. And it's just been a very good week, like Mike said. And honestly, like, I would not be surprised if we broke out and continued the nice run. Like, it almost looks like we have like a bit of a bullish flag or some type of setup going on here on the SPY. And if we do break out, I think that'll make for a pretty good sign. Now, if we end up hitting resistance and going down, then we might have to reevaluate. But as of right now, it's looking pretty good. And, you know, the market's coming down here initially at market open, but I will say it was looking so nice in pre-market that I'm really hoping for a boost up still. But, you know, the market is coming down, Mike. Looks like that 1 minute candle is extending down a little bit. And I wonder if the market is kind of just digesting this news now that it opened. Like, I know that sometimes, Mike, like over the past couple of weeks, like you pointed out, the market was really dying off there. We had lots of scenarios where we rose up in pre-market and then fell when the market opened. And I wonder if that's almost what's going on today.
Yeah, it's definitely possible, but it looks like we had more people join, so I definitely want to talk more about the CPI report. The headline from CNBC is saying that inflation surged 6.8% in November, even more than expected, and it's the fastest rate since 1982. So we can see Tom has it pulled up here. It's just it's popping, you know, and it's not really a good thing. You know, a little bit of inflation is good, but it's looking pretty rough, you know, Tom. So I don't know. I mean, I that's the information. The market likes it right now, but in my opinion, like, high inflation for like long periods of time is not a good thing. And I guess we'll only see if it's transitory or not. I don't think it will be, but we'll definitely find out.
Yeah, it's getting pretty crazy to see. And, you know, one thing, Mike, that is really crazy to me is that we actually got higher on the CPI chart here, according to CNBC, than we were around 2008 levels. Like, it looks like it around August of '08, we were around like 5.4%, somewhere very close to that up there at the highs. And, we came in at 6.8% now. That's a lot higher. And, in '08, you can see we had a super high inflation surge. And then we actually had a small time of deflation right after that, where the CPI actually went into the negative. And I'm not saying that's going to happen now, but it's just very interesting to me, Mike, how this chart is showing how high this is getting. And we're getting into almost that volatile like 1980s and 1970s inflation now at this point. It's getting pretty crazy. And I know that the 70s were a very inflationary period. And I know people have been saying that we're kind of heading back to that. And I really hope we aren't, but it looks like we really are, honestly, looking at the chart. And like I said, we're finally passing above '08's levels, and we're actually getting to the highest levels, like they said, in since 1982.
It's crazy. It really is. All right, so good stuff there. And then I just want to go over these comments really quickly. We have Dastin saying, I pray that everyone here doesn't get stuck holding the bag today. There we go. There we go. Then we have Sam saying Pfizer's falling, Oracle running. Let's take a look at it. Pfizer, yeah, it's done a decent amount so far. I mean, they've been doing very well over the past year, and looks like they're in a little pullback, which isn't too bad. And then also we have Oracle. Yeah, Oracle's looking great, Tom. I totally missed this one, but they're up 18%.
Yeah, they had those amazing earnings yesterday. And, this company has been awesome over the past few years, and they just continue to show their strength again, making new highs. And man, I know Oracle has been all over the place. Like, I know that they're kind of like DraftKings, Mike. Like, they get their name out there. They get sponsorships all over the place. Their marketing team is awesome. And, in the end, like, I see them everywhere. So I'm not surprised to see them going up. I know lots of businesses use their like their business solutions and different stuff like that. I think that they have some awesome programs, and I'm really glad to see them up, Mike. I think it's just a really good sign for not just them, but also just the tech sector in general. We've been seeing stocks like Oracle, Apple, just the bigger names doing very well. I think it's really good for the markets.
Yep. All right, and then I just want to welcome everyone to the stream really quickly. So thank you guys so much for joining. Welcome Jamie, Alex, Dastin, Iranical, Vicky, Sam, and George. And then we have Vicky saying, does anyone remember that we went through the deepest recession and disruptions in the world in 2020? Inflation is transitory. 2008 was nothing comparable to now. I would say yes and no. My thing is like, a lot of times, like the Federal Reserve, their main job is they don't want people to panic, right? Like, because if people start panicking, if inflation's gonna get out of hand, and this and that, it can make the problem a lot worse. Similar to what happened, when COVID first happened. Like, what the government was really doing, whether it was the Federal Reserve or just the White House, like the first thing is they wanted to make sure people weren't panicking, right? But then another thing is that the Federal Reserve, they printed so much money over the past, I think it was like 18 months or something like that. I want to say it was like 40% of the current supply of money was added in like the past 18 months. That's not the exact statistic, but it's a ridiculous amount between all of the, I guess you can say, it's really just all the stimulus, whether it was from, the stimulus packages or the Fed's pumping the markets or whatever. Like, when you have 40% of the total money supply added, it's like, how can there not be in like higher than average inflation, or how can it not be transitory? Like, I'm not saying that inflation is going to be at 6.8% for the next 10 years, but I definitely don't see it just dropping right back down to like 2% or so, considering 40% of the money supply was added in the past 18 months. That's insane, for how long the U.S. has been, established. 40% of the money supply was added in the past 18 months. To me, like that's one of the biggest things to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's a lot of money to be added. And, like you just have to keep in mind, like they're almost flooding the markets with cash. Like we talk about trying to bring down the price of oil by flooding the markets with oil. And it's almost like the same thing with the dollar. You're bringing down the price of the dollar as that happens. And maybe not its valuation, but you know what I mean? Like, it's going to take more dollars now to buy a soda, more dollars to get gasoline, more dollars for this. So it's definitely crazy what they're doing, Mike. And like you said, they really are trying to keep that, I think, the fear down / panic. So like whenever we see these bad events go on, obviously it's a lot better for Powell and for the Fed to be touting transitory for the past year and a half than it would be if Powell was saying, hey, the inflation might get back to the levels of the 70s and the 80s again. Like it would have been pretty bad if he was saying that stuff. And it can cause a lot of panic, like Mike said. And I think they did a very good job by saying it would be transitory and by keeping the panic down. But at the same time, though, the inflation is going up. And, we just have to look at it objectively. I would say just look at the data, and we're seeing it get pretty high. And hey, if it continues to be high for the next few months, then it's going to get to be pretty crazy, to say the least. And Mike, I know that we have the FOMC meeting coming up next week, and lots of people are suggesting, or I should say lots of analysts are suggesting that with this inflation, with these CPI numbers coming in higher than expected, that the feds might taper their asset purchasing faster, or they might even announce interest rates or rising rates sooner than expected. I know that they were expected maybe at the end of 2022, heading into 2023 is where they were expected to raise them. But I've been seeing reports of analysts saying now with these numbers coming in higher, maybe like in the middle of the year next year, or possibly even like one of the first couple quarters.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. And then Vicky said the Fed saved the economy and by default the world. Look at your bank accounts. That's the only choice they had. Yeah, they did. I mean, the Fed, they were put in a very tough position over the past 2 years. It has not been easy for them by any means, but that still doesn't mean that inflation will be transitory, though, just because Powell's saying it, Like, I just don't see it. And I pulled up some exact numbers on, it looks like techstartups.com. But anyways, it says, so this was posted on May 22nd of 2021, okay? It says 40% of US dollars in existence were printed in the last 12 months. Is America repeating the same mistake of 1921 Germany? So the point is just 40% of all dollars are you know what I mean? Like that's insane. That's insane to me. So I really don't think inflation will be transitory, but to each their own. And, we'll definitely find out, as everything plays out. But kind of like what Tom was saying, like, if Powell just went ahead and said, oh, inflation might get as bad as it was in like the 70s, then that would make the problem so much worse. Like, the Fed is kind of, I don't want to say obligated, but like they kind of have to say that everything's going to be okay. Because if they don't, then things can get really bad.
Yeah, they do. And it's like they're playing a game. They're trying to keep the fear down, but they're also trying to be as honest as they can. And sometimes they might have to stretch the truth a little bit to see what, to obviously keep some fear down and stuff. But I just wanted to bring up this chart because this is actually a pretty cool chart, Mike. It goes all the way back to 1960 and it shows the inflation. And we can see that in the 70s, kind of like what we're seeing over the past few years, like inflation was fairly low. Now we're starting to get a bit of an uptick, and kind of like what we saw in the late 60s, we got a bit of an uptick. And then once we got into the 70s, that inflation exploded. We saw like 11% on the inflation rate, 13% up there at the highs. And I'm not saying we're going to get that high again, but that inflation stuck around for a while. Like that was a 10-year period of crazy inflation. And I'm not saying that we're going to have that crazy of inflation again here, but if we are higher, just, don't be too surprised if it does stick around for a little while. Like historically it has happened before and it can definitely happen again. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that, it's going to happen for sure or anything like that, but definitely keep it on the radar because it's something that can happen. And, with the way that I've been seeing prices go up, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it did because, man, the gas prices are high, used car prices are high, home prices are high, grocery prices are high, everything's high right now. And obviously, I don't think these companies can just drop prices anymore either. Like we've been seeing, I know companies have been taking some flack, Mike, for, raising prices and stuff. And, in the end, though, it's almost like they had to raise them because, wages are going up, like the minimum wages and stuff like that are changing. And a lot of different stuff is honestly just affecting the economy. And, I'm not trying to, give like an economic seminar here, but, it's just how it is with the economics of the world right now.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. Definitely a lot of great information, Vicky. Thank you so much for all of that. Welcome, Mike, to the stream. But Tom, like, what setups are you seeing? I know we have the market popping up. AI is going crazy. Oracle's going crazy. Like, what are you seeing?
Yeah, AI is really crazy. I'm pretty upset though. They came all the way back down, Mike. They're almost all the way back. I know that they had got that $500 million defense deal yesterday, which is awesome. And I saw that AI only had like a $3 billion market cap or something like that. So that's pretty crazy that they got a $500 million contract. I think that's going to be pretty good for them over the next few years. And honestly, I'm surprised to see them pulling back this hard at market open. That did surprise me quite a bit. We do have, though, Lucid, Mike, is actually back on the uptrend, up 6% today. I know this stock has been getting destroyed over the past couple of weeks. Now, Lucid had an awesome year so far, or I should say an awesome past few months. And I really hope that they get back on the uptrend. And they are up 6% today, but they still have a long way to go.
No doubt. Yeah, it's interesting to say the least. Yesterday was really bad for Lucid, and it is good to see that they are recovering back up a little bit. So that is good. It looks like some other stocks are still struggling though, specifically Zoom. You know, some of these other growth companies are having like a good recovery, but I would say Zoom is actually kind of lagging behind. You know, like we saw this week, actually a lot of stocks pop back up, but Zoom just kind of sitting there, and they've actually had some pretty good earnings. And I feel like, if we're being honest, I feel like Zoom is more necessary than some of these other growth companies. Like you can say, like Corsair or DraftKings, you know, because Zoom it's used so much nowadays. Where I'm just kind of surprised that Zoom isn't popping up more.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Maybe it's better than DraftKings, but I don't think it's better than Corsair, just given that Corsair does all the computer parts and stuff. But yeah, I'm with you though. I mean, I see those Zoom is definitely huge, and you know, I like them too. I think they're definitely going to be useful for the next few years, and I'm really glad that they haven't fallen down more. I know that they've been falling down quite a bit, but honestly, it could have been a little worse, you know, given everything that's going on. Like if these earnings would have came in the negative or something, man, it would have been crazy to see how they fell, like CHGG, or, you know, like some of these other stocks that have just taken these humongous, like 40% tumbles. So I'm glad it didn't do that. But man, yeah, I definitely like them too. But you know, obviously I don't think that they're better than Corsair though. I just don't think that, but obviously to each their own, and everybody's biased towards their own stocks. But honestly, they're both at good levels, and I would honestly eye up both of them for the longer term. And I think they'll both do great, to be honest. They're both kind of in that tech sector, which is good.
To be clear, I like DraftKings more than Zoom, and I also like Corsair more than Zoom. But what I was referring to was like talking about like necessities. You know what I mean? Like I feel like Zoom is used by many more people and is a much more necessary company than DraftKings. Like for example, people learn online, people have court online, people, you know, they do like so many things through Zoom and online meetings, and it's a more like necessary, widely used company. Where a company like DraftKings, which is my favorite company for the long term, while they are growing at an amazing rate, they're not necessarily like they're not used by as many people, and they're not what I would call a necessary company. Like it's sports gambling. It's not like, you know, like
Yeah.
online meetings for education, or like I
Yeah,
said,
and
law.
I meant more of Corsair too, because
Gotcha.
you know, I meant more of the computer parts, like the fans and, you know, everything like that, the components on the inside and all that stuff is what I meant more. But DraftKings, like you said, they're just like meant for fun almost, you know, well, like you said, they're definitely not needed in society at all. If that's what we're going at. And you know, in the end though, they're an awesome company though. I love them, but like you said, it's just like it's like something for fun. You know, it's almost like Facebook. Like I know Facebook is obviously pretty integrated now, but in the end though, like they're not used as much as like Zoom is. I don't think for like obviously they're used for business quite a bit with like advertisements, but they're not being used for like the meetings and everything like that. Not near as much. And I get what you're saying because man, like imagine this. Like I know like even Powell I think was using Zoom, wasn't he, Mike?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think Powell and the Feds even have like Zoom meetings that we've been watching every time they have the FOMCs or Powell gets questioned and stuff like that. You know, he's been doing a lot on these different applications like Zoom. So yeah, they're definitely good for society. And I'm really hoping that they can get back up there, Mike, because like you said, it's been so integrated now. Like people are using Zoom nonstop. They're using Microsoft Teams as well, and other versions of stuff like Zoom anyways. And you would think Zoom would be doing a little bit better, to be honest. I just honestly, this stock has blown my mind the way it's went down. You know, like obviously DraftKings comes in with like some lackluster earnings. Of course, it's like, they're going down. We have Corsair kind of going down. Their earnings weren't quite as good either. But then we have Zoom come in with decent earnings, decent growth, decent outlook. And it's just like, like what's going on? Like,
Yeah, for sure. All right, so with the next comment, we have Sam saying, "Is the SPY turning down?" Let's take a look. SPY, so it's up like 0.5% today. It's definitely falling from open. So yeah, it definitely is turning down right now, but it's not like it's crashing by any means. We are very close to all-time highs, and then we are just under that 470 resistance.
that resistance is going to be huge today, guys. Definitely watch this. It's failed to break out here at market open, and honestly, it's worrying me a little bit. I will say it's not. If we would have broke out above here at market open and we would have had some nice movement and made some new highs, I'd be pretty bullish on the market. But with the way that we're kind of double topping here and going down, I'm wondering if this might be the start of a small sell-off. And we had the market do very well this week. It went flat yesterday heading into this event today. And then these numbers came out actually worse than expected, and the market shot up. So I don't know. I'm honestly looking for the market to fall down a little bit personally. I really hope that we're able to break out and move up above 470 to 471 or something like that. But I just think that the chances are going to be pretty low, especially given that the numbers came in the way they did. But man, pre-market was looking so promising. It's just now we turned over and this resistance looks like it's really holding up.
All right. Then we have Sean saying, "Thoughts on CVS? I got in the 1/22 calls yesterday." There we go. I really like it. They're looking pretty good actually. They're breaking out, decent volume, solid company. Pretty sure they had some pretty good news yesterday too, but I definitely like it.
Me too. That breakout on the daily charts, awesome, Mike. I love that they broke that resistance yesterday around like 96.75. I thought that was an amazing move, and it looks like it's continuing today. So yeah, like guys, just like we said yesterday, it was having a nice breakout, and it looks like it's continuing. So awesome play right there. I think that was a great entry, and I'm really glad you picked this one up.
Yep. All right, and then we have Iranical saying, "I feel the market is going to reverse to the downside." I mean, it's selling off right now a little bit, but it's still holding up pretty well. The market does rise a lot more than it falls, but always trust your gut. So welcome to the stream, Spacely. Good morning. And then we have Mass saying AMC under 27 now. So yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. AMC is down 7.5%. And I saw like a brief news flash this morning, and I believe that the CEO and like the CFO unloaded a good amount of shares, and I don't know. Yeah. So the CFO has 0 shares remaining, so he sold literally all of his shares.
Wow. Are you serious? The CFO?
Yep, CFO.
Wow. Are you? Well, that's insane to hear, actually. He sold all of his shares. I mean, man, if that doesn't tell you guys that you should be worried about AMC, I don't know what else can. Like, man, that's a crazy thing to hear that the CFO sold all of his shares. Honestly, if it was just a little bit, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But with him selling all of them, I think that's a big deal. And if you guys are holding AMC for the long term, I would definitely reevaluate that position and possibly start to sell some covered calls or exit the position. And I'll be honest, there's so many other stocks at great levels right now. Like, honestly, like even if AMC goes from 27 back to 50 or 60, I'd almost rather just have Corsair, Zoom, or something like that I feel like could go up pretty safely over the next couple of years.
Yep, I agree. All right. And then we have Anderson saying, "Good morning, fellas. I hear a lot of talk about inflation now, but what's your thoughts on the supply chain issues and also your thoughts on the NU IPO yesterday?" So the supply chain issues are definitely a problem, and I actually heard that it's well, I mean, obviously it's affecting a lot of companies, but I heard some pretty interesting information related to the supply chain issues specifically with tech stocks. So, I guess as we kind of already know, some stocks Ford, or some companies like Ford are struggling to produce as many vehicles because of the supply chain issues, and that makes sense. But if we look at a company like Snapchat, I want to say a couple months ago they came out saying basically their advertising dollars or their revenue is slowing down a good amount, and supply chain issues were blamed for that. And at first it kind of made me think, but for example, let's say you have a company like I don't know, I guess you could say a company like Corsair, right? That sells PCs and computer parts and and all that. If they don't have enough inventory to sell everyone, they're not going to spend their advertising dollars trying to get more people to buy because they don't even have the product in the first place. And it's not just Corsair, but it's just like all companies. Like the point is that the supply chain issues, they're not just affecting the main company like Corsair or Ford. It also affects the companies that are partnered with the companies like Ford or Corsair. Like there's a lot of ripple effects is what I'm trying to say. So hopefully the supply chain issues kind of uh, get solved sooner rather than later, but who knows how long it'll take.
Yeah, very good insight. I honestly never even thought of it like that, like that it could honestly affect those companies like Snapchat, Facebook, because these companies aren't, running that type of like the type of ads that they were running before. And I guess that makes a lot of sense, to be honest. I never really thought of it that way. And it's been pretty crazy for me to see that these stocks, like, even with this, like the supply chain issues, like Ford has been doing great, AMD's been on fire, Nvidia's been on fire. It looks like just now they might start be getting affected by this, but honestly, it seems like the issues have helped some of these companies. Like honestly, it's created like a lot of demand. I know that like Nvidia, like their graphics cards prices are through the roof. Same thing with AMD, a lot of Corsair products, their prices are through the roof because of all the issues and stuff like that. So it seems like it helps some of the companies, but like you said, Mike, there's a huge ripple effect. And honestly, I never even thought of that. I never even thought of it like hurting Snapchat and stuff. And I knew that their ad revenues were down, but honestly, that makes a lot of sense with like the supply chain issues and everything. And I just can't wait to see how it continues because, I know that these supply chain issues have been going on for a while now, especially with AMD, Nvidia, like the chip sector. I know the chip sector has gotten hit especially hard, and it's crazy to see some of the stocks doing so well during such a strange time. And I'm wondering now if maybe once the market starts to get flooded as this production kind of catches up to demand, I wonder if some of these stocks might start going down, like AMD and Nvidia. And we've been talking about these stocks possibly taking a dip for the past few months, and they've been doing very well with supply chain issues. And I wonder when it catches up, like I said, if they'll start to fall off a little.
Speaking of like supply chain issues and things like that, remember when LBS went crazy, Tom? Lumber, LBS slash
Oh yeah.
LBS. That was insane. So I know this chart isn't like updated because it's the July futures, but anyways, we can just see the main point from like March of 2021. Lumber futures were at like $884. By May of 2021, they went all the way up to 1700. So that's insane. And I remember there was like a bunch of memes all over the place about like the price of lumber and all that. And it just goes to show you like there's so many things that get affected. And like for example, when we have like lumber rising, it affects the cost to build a new house, and it affects there's so many ripple effects to it.
Yeah, there really is. And it's so crazy to hear because it just like with lumber, whenever lumber was high, it was affecting home builders. It was affecting even just regular people trying to build houses. It made the prices of regular houses go up. And the same thing's kind of happening right now with everything else. And, once again, it kind of goes back to inflation again. Again, like this kind of comes back down to the inflation rising. A lot of it has to do with that and just the overall prices of everything going up. It's definitely a crazy time, Mike. And I know some of those memes were hilarious. It would show like two cars get into an accident, but one of the cars had some lumber in it. And then the guys were like, man, you damaged my lumber. Like it was so funny to hear, there was a bunch of funny stuff going on, but yeah, I mean, the prices of stuff have been crazy. And, it's not just lumber. It's not just, computer parts, like used cars, everything. So yeah, I mean, I definitely see it. And I'm really hoping that some of these like computer parts and stuff start to come back down, honestly. Like I feel like that it's even hurting like the metaverse's growth and stuff like that. Like I know that we've been talking a lot about the metaverse and stuff a lot lately as well. And with all these supply chain issues and all this stuff going on, it's probably hindering Facebook's opportunity to maybe start the Meta platform because honestly, if you think about it, that's going to take a lot of capability, whether it's from servers, they're going to need lots of processors, server things, all types of stuff to get this going. So it's going to be a pretty big endeavor, and it's going to take a lot of these computer parts. And I'm really hoping that the inflation gets fixed, Mike, because I just can't wait to see how some of these tech companies react, especially the ones that are overextended, because I'm just really curious to see if they end up falling down or not.
We shall see. All right, and then Anderson also wanted us to cover the NU IPO. I saw it, but honestly, like I'm not, I don't really have a stance on this one. I probably won't get into it.
Yeah, me either. I don't know too much about them fundamentally. As a company, I don't even know anything that they do. And I will say it looks pretty volatile so far, just like normal IPOs. So I will say be careful with it. It looks like it is going down a little bit as of now, but I haven't followed it too much, so I don't want to give too much insight on it.
Here we go. All right, and then let's see. Then we have V saying, thanks for doing this stuff. Is it possible you guys do pre-market stocks? Yeah, thanks for joining. We don't really do pre-market stocks, but we do, or Tom and I do post two potential day trades in the Stocked Up Discord. So I'm not sure if you're in that, but there should be a link to join below this live stream. Basically, it's just like a little chat room, and Tom and I post two setups in like the day trading channel. So that's about as close as we do to pre-market stocks. Oh, Tom just posted it in the live chat right now. So definitely check that out. And then they also asked about NEO, ORPH, and RSLS. So I like NEO for the long term. Of course, they're not my favorite company in the market, but I do like their potential.
Man, I thought Neo was going to do a little bit better today. Like they were setting up pretty well. I really liked the way that they were moving yesterday, and I thought they held their ground pretty well compared to a lot of other stuff. And they just ended up tanking off today at market open. So it's going to be pretty interesting for Neo, but I'm really hoping that they can get up with these China stocks pretty soon.
Yep. All right, and then ORPH. So honestly, I have never heard of this company before. Their chart looks brutal. They are very illiquid too. So I would never trade them, but if you're in them, I hope they pop.
Yeah, I don't think I would trade them either. Looking at the 90-day, 15-minute, I mean, I see where you're coming from. Like it can have some decent setups. Maybe it's in like a bit of like a bullish flag setup here, but personally, with the way it's been moving, it's been making new low after new low. So be really careful. I don't think I would play this one either.
All right, and then with the last one, they're asking about RSLS, which is a pretty similar setup. So I would say the same thing. I wouldn't play them, and it's just like these really low like market cap stocks. One, they're pretty illiquid. Two, there's a lot of manipulation with them, and then three, a lot of times they're bad companies, so they just naturally fall. So for that reason, it's just it's not really a play for me.
Yeah, me either. And a lot of people like these companies because they fly up so much. Like we can see that they're up, 6% from yesterday and they only rose 11 cents. So like, obviously they can have some pretty crazy percentage gains and stuff like that, which is awesome. But, obviously it's a lot harder to find the moves and everything. And I feel like that whenever we're looking at stocks like Zoom, Pfizer even, and just like more of like the regular stocks in the market, I feel like that they move a little bit safer and they kind of have a little bit better setups as well.
All right, and then we have Alex saying any support levels to watch for Lucid. All right, LCID, they're up like, oh wow, Tom, they actually started coming back down. I think there's a lot of levels on this one. What do you have?
Yeah, they came right back down. I have a huge level down here right around 36 and $35. I think these are going to be two amazing levels for today. There's also seems to be a pretty big resistance right here around $38 and then another one up around 40. And I will say there's lots of overhead resistance and they rose a lot early on in the morning. And I was really hoping they would continue, but it looks like they are consolidating now. And I don't know what to think of Lucid, Mike. Like they've had a pretty bad week while the rest of the market was doing pretty good. And I don't know like why they're coming down so much right now. Maybe it's because they had such a good week over the past few weeks. Like I know they've been on a crazy uptrend, but it's bad to see them coming down with this type of momentum. Personally, I'm definitely watching that $36 support. I think that's going to be huge today intraday. And then up at the top, I'm just going to look at the high of day today, up around $39 even, but there's definitely a lot of resistances coming up if we start to rise.
Yep. All right, cool stuff. I just want to do a quick check-in with the market overall to see what stocks are moving. It looks like Amazon's tanking down a little bit. Bank of America's tanking down. Snapchat is moving down as well. So I mean, it looks like the main movers for today so far, we could say Spy. Yeah, I would say the Snapchat to the downside, maybe Microsoft to the upside. They're up like 2%, and then maybe Amazon to the downside as well. So yeah, those are like the top ones. I would say Microsoft being the most notable.
Yeah, this one looks great. I love the way it broke out above this high from on Wednesday. It looks like right there around like 338. I think that was an amazing break there. And then we started running. Is this a new all-time high? And nope, it's not. But we're getting pretty close actually. And I'm really waiting for that all-time high to get hit, Mike. Like Microsoft's exploding pretty good, and I wouldn't be surprised if we got pretty close over the next few days. And it's pretty weird to me to see Microsoft running so well, and then to see Amazon tanking off, Mike. It's definitely a bit of a mixed day. Like half of my watch list is red, half of it's green. And this is just one example, but man, Amazon's tanking down 0.5%. It's just weird to see such a good company falling off while like Microsoft and some of the others are going up. Like I would think that Amazon would do pretty well, but obviously to each their own.
Yep. All right, and then we have Vicky asking for levels on Apple and Microsoft. So, Tom, what do you have for us?
Apple's pretty easy here. We have a pretty solid double top up here, right around 176.75. And I will say it's looking pretty good for a setup to the upside if we can break up above 176.75. So definitely eye that up. That's going to be the main level I'm looking to break out above today. It does look like we are bouncing off the 100 SMA back to the upside too. So if we do break out above 176.75, I would look at a nice play with calls. And if it goes down, I don't even think I'd play this one, to be honest. You know, if they start going down, I feel like there'll be a lot of other stocks that might go down at a much faster pace.
Gotcha. All right, and then Microsoft.
Microsoft, now they're on fire. This one's going to be a lot harder to find the level for here, but whenever I'm looking at it on the 15-minute chart, there's definitely going to be a big resistance here around 340. That's definitely been touched quite a few times, and we're getting pretty close to that again today. So maybe if we're able to break out about 340, Microsoft can keep running. But man, they're already up like 1.72%, and I think it's going to be pretty tough for them to break 340. But hey, if they do, they could almost be like a good breakout play like Apple will.
True that. Vicky said, hit the like, guys. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for joining today. Market's looking pretty good so far. Microsoft is leading the day, but if you guys like the streams, it would help us out so much if you could hit that like button. It takes like 2 seconds, and Tom and I greatly appreciate it. So, again, thank you guys so much for being here. We really like doing the streams, and it's awesome to go live. So, looking at some other notable stocks, of course, we covered Microsoft, but another one that's I guess you could say kind of creeping up there is UPS. It's not running up nearly as much as Microsoft is, but you know it's trying.
Yeah, it looks pretty good on the chart. You know, UPS is a slow mover, and you know, I'll be honest, like a lot of stocks have been consolidating over the past 2 days, and UPS has just been on their nice and steady uptrend. You know, they don't go up 5% in a single day, but you know, they have a lot of like 1 to 2% up days, and it looks like today is another nice day, Mike, with them breaking out above 208. I think that's a pretty good move.
True that. Oh wow, Cisco's running up too. I didn't even see this one. So it looks like some of these, I don't want to say, how do I word this? Like, you know, when we think of tech stocks, we naturally think of like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, stuff like that. But some of these like other tech stocks like Cisco and Oracle are having some great days.
Yeah, they are. That's actually an amazing move by Cisco, Mike. It's only up 2.4%, but you can see on the daily chart, their candle is pretty big here, and I'm glad to see it extending up the way it is here. It's just such a good day, like you said, for some of these stocks. And, you know, Cisco's doing great. AI had that good news early in the morning. And, you know, like some of these stocks, like you said, like Cisco, they might not be the most talked about tech stocks on the market, but they're definitely in that sector, and they can do pretty well on their own. And I know Oracle, Mike, has been a pretty highly talked about stock over the past few years, and this one honestly had an amazing move with earnings. I know that they beat their EPS pretty well, which was great, and their revenue came in well, and it's been such a good past 2 years for Oracle and even Cisco. You know, like I know Cisco doesn't get hyped up as much as some of the others, but if you look at their growth, even they have done very well.
Yep. All right, and we have J Deep asking about cost. So COST, it's up like almost 4% today, actually. They reported earnings yesterday, and they are running up. It looks like they have resistance right around like 548, right around there. Then another resistance level right around 560. It's just a solid like value stock. Like they're probably not gonna change the world as much as like an Apple or Microsoft or Tesla will, but they're just like a safe, slow and steady company. They pay a decent dividend too. It's just like a longer term play. Besides that, there's not really anything like notable for the short term in my opinion. Maybe you're seeing something else, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that it's been pretty crazy their growth over the past year. Like honestly, like for being a value stock, they've done pretty well. Like they're up 45%. Like we go look at something like Apple, of course Apple's doing probably better, but let's go look at it. Apple's only up 32% from the same time. So actually Costco has been outperforming Apple this year by quite a bit, and it's been looking pretty good to the upside. I will say though, it's getting pretty overextended in my opinion, but I mean, have a year Costco. I thought this was just such an amazing move to the upside, especially after all that COVID crap. It really seemed that Costco was able to keep on the uptrend here and keep doing well. And even whenever we saw other companies like Walmart, for example, on the Max Daily chart, just kind of go flat and consolidate, we have Costco here really killing it. So I don't know what they've been doing different, but hey, their stock's been on fire and I'm really glad to see it. But in the short term, I don't really see anything either, Mike. They might break out above like 547.80 and get a nice run with that. But other than that, on the daily, I'm not looking at it too much. And keep in mind, they did have earnings last night, and it looks like the earnings came in pretty good.
Gotcha. Just one thing to keep in mind is that Apple is literally like worth 10 times more than Costco, so it's like it's harder for Apple to like grow at like the same rates as a smaller company, but I definitely know what you mean. And when you do look at Costco, it is definitely doing very well, and they're really beating out a lot of their competitors. But I know Target's been doing well too. But either way, they've been doing pretty dang good lately, and that's awesome to see. And then let's see. Then we have Alex saying AMD is struggling. Let's take a look. AMD is down. Oh, no, they're down. They're up like 0.6% today, but they were in the red for like a second. AMD and Nvidia are struggling. Personally, chip stocks are overbought to me. I kind of felt this way for like the past couple weeks. I just think that they're at a little bit too high of a level. They're solid companies though, and they are powerhouses, so it's hard to bet against them. But I do think AMD and Nvidia can pull back a little more.
Yeah, and I'm actually someone who is very biased towards these companies. Like I love AMD, Nvidia, Intel, Corsair. I love all like the computer slash the gaming stocks. I love video editing and all that type of stuff. I think it's just such a great sector and everything like that. And I love these companies, but I'll be honest, Mike, like I could see these ones coming down. I'm not saying they're going to crash and burn, but like I could see AMD falling pretty well below like the 135 support. I could see Nvidia. If I go look at them, I could see them falling pretty solidly below like their 280 support. And these stocks have been on a crazy uptrend over the past couple of years, rising like well over like 300% in a lot of cases. And I feel like that they're just due for a bit of a pullback, and they've even been doing well, like we said earlier. They've been having all these production issues, supply chain issues and stuff like that. And these stocks have just still been killing it. And I would just think that they have to have some point of slowing down or some profit taking pretty soon. And, we even see that happen with Tesla. You know what I mean? Like Tesla was flying up for a few years, and then they had that 6-month area of consolidation, and then they flew up again. So I just kind of feel like that AMD and Nvidia are kind of just due for that consolidation area over the next couple of months, and we'll have to see what happens, because as the rates start to go up, I think that'll be a really big impact on these tech stocks.
Yeah, and it's also hard to like bet against these chip stocks or in tech stocks in general because they do rise so much. So it's like if you buy puts, you have to have a good amount of time, which will be expensive, and you also have to get close to the money. So it's tough to play them. It's a really tough trade. I think there's better trades out there, just like buying shares or leaps or some of these other plays. But with that being said, it's just it's something to keep in mind. Like maybe like a call credit spread or something like that might be the move, but we'll play it by ear.
And honestly, what I would do is just wait for like some breaks. Like if I would just sit here and just watch it, post an alert, maybe wait for it to break down below a certain level. And honestly, I would just try to play it really fast. Like, I don't think I would even try to hold any puts on this one. Like you said, it's going to be pretty tough. You know, like if you're holding puts on a stock like AMD, it can reverse on you pretty fast. And, you know, I would only try to get into something very quickly. And I just wanted to reiterate that because once you said it, it kind of made me think that with what I said about them going down, maybe people will just start hopping into like some longer term puts. And, you know, that's not what I'm trying to convey. I'm trying to convey that if it falls below support, I might buy in for a very quick, like, you know, 1 day move or something like that. I'm not going to get puts on these guys for any extended period of time or anything. And I just wanted to reiterate that because once you said it, Mike, it kind of made me think that maybe people would just be jumping into some puts because I said that.
For sure. All right, and then we have Mike saying thoughts on MTTR. So Matterport, I do like them for the long term. Looking at their chart, they have been uptrending pretty well. It's actually looking pretty good for a short put. So I'm actually really glad you brought this up. I'm just checking out the options pricing on it really quickly. IV's pretty high. It's pulling back a little bit too. So I might sell some puts on this one.
Me too. This is a pretty good one here, actually. And they've had a lot of talks with the metaverse and stuff like that. And, you know, for people who don't know what this company does, pretty much like you're able to go through your house, you're able to take pictures of it and videos and stuff. And somehow this company's software is able to put your house then into a 3D program that you can look at it through on the internet. And it's very interesting because you can do like house tours and stuff like that without actually going to the house. And they're saying that you're going to be able to scan stuff and put it into the metaverse this way. And it's very interesting to hear for the future. But, you know, they have had lots of talks with the metaverse and they've also been moving up quite a bit lately, Mike. I know that, you know, me and you talked about this one a few months ago, and honestly, it's had some pretty good growth.
Yeah, I'm actually really tempted to maybe sell a couple puts on this one because if we look at, let's say, the January expiration, you know, if I did like the $17.50 put, I'll get paid $100 per put or more. And then again, it's a $17.50 strike price. Like, I'd be getting a huge discount on the shares too. So I actually might do that.
Yeah, it sounds pretty smart, Mike. That IV is on fire. Like we're up above 125%. I mean, you almost can't ask for a better time, and it's pulling back.
Yeah, good stuff. So thank you for sharing that, Mike. But like Tom, do you have like any like levels on this one or like any like technicals?
Yeah, let's go through it and look at it a little bit here. I know that it's been moving up. It's been moving past a lot of these SMAs, which is great. You know, it's been having a lot of upwards movement. There's definitely a lot of different support levels though on this one, and I kind of want to get on the 180-day 4-hour chart because there's been lots of strange movements like in after hours and stuff like that. So let me go ahead and change my drawing tool to the price level. But yeah, I am actually seeing a pretty good support coming up right around 2250. I think that one's going to be perfect. We actually had a bit of a bounce off of that. And the thing I really love is that it was like 2250 was the level that we finally had to break out above before MTTR got that nice move here from 2250 all the way up to $27. And if we're able to bounce off of 2250 again, I think it'd be a pretty good bounce. We might get a nice move back to the upside. And I'm seeing a pretty good resistance here right around 2765 to 2750, somewhere right there where we hit a couple days ago. I think that's going to be a pretty big resistance. So I'm seeing a bit of a range between 2250 and 2750. I think that's going to be the main levels to look at.
Awesome. Alrighty, so let's see. We basically covered like the most notable stocks so far. We'll probably wrap the stream up in a couple minutes, but I just want to double check before we end. I just want to, yeah, I mean, it looks like we covered all of the main things. Like, Tom, do you have like any other like setups or anything you're seeing?
You know, one setup that I've really been eyeing up the past few weeks is XPEV. Now, this is another China EV stock. Unfortunately, it's a Chinese stock, which is the only negative I think to it. But, you know, we're having lots of these EV stocks, whether it be NEO. You know, they've been on a bit of a downtrend lately. We've been seeing Tesla even dip down slightly over the past few days. You know, a lot of these stocks like NEO, of course, XPEV, we've just been seeing lots of downwards movement out of the EV sector overall, and especially with Lucid even, you know, they've been pulling back. And I feel like that some of these stocks, as they pull back, they might be some pretty good pickups here. And I'm not saying to buy Lucid or anything right now, but I feel like XPEV Neo, and some of these other stocks are at some pretty key levels. And I feel like that for the next few months, some of these EV companies can do very, very well. So I'm definitely going to be eyeing them to the upside. As far as movement today, my main thing I've been watching is the SPY. I've really been just waiting for a breakout up above 470. I think that if we get a breakout up above that, it can make for a pretty good day today. And, the thing that gives me some hope that we might be able to go up and break this is that Microsoft keeps running up to these highs. I think that that's an amazing day for Microsoft. Hopefully they keep running. And if Microsoft keeps going, we might see some of these other stocks like Apple start to go up. And if they do, then I think the SPY could start to get pretty explosive. And it looks like Apple might actually break out to a new all-time high here in just a couple seconds.
There we go. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining today. The market's doing pretty well. It's always great to see, companies like Apple and Microsoft exploding up. Again, thank you guys so much for joining, and have an amazing rest of your day.